Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 136. Shizun, relax. Moran was in the middle of cutting the rice stalks when a hand suddenly grabbed his belt from behind and pulled it down. This feeling was quite horrifying. When he turned around and saw that it was Chu Wanning and it was Chu Wanning who was on the verge of falling to the ground, he was even more horrified. Moran hurriedly threw away his sickle and turned around to help him. However, Chu Wanning had fallen so miserably that almost half of his body had fallen to the ground. Moran couldn't support him and could only catch him. That faint hatang fragrance, together with the person in white fluttering clothes, fell solidly into his arms. Moran didn't hesitate to hug him as the rice stalks that were originally in his arms fell to the ground. Shizun, why are you here? He was still in a state of shock. You scared me. Chu Wanning. The paddy field is very slippery. You have to be careful. The person in his arms lowered his head and didn't say anything. He was so embarrassed that he couldn't utter a word. Meanwhile, the village girl was still singing her heart out, I tug at my lover's belt. When will you come? Chu Wanning felt as if he had been struck cold by lightning. He quickly retracted the hand that was holding onto Moran's belt and steadied himself. He took a deep breath and suddenly pushed the other man away. Although his expression was still placid, his eyes were shockingly bright, rippling with light. He was obviously flustered, but he still forced himself to be calm. Moran suddenly noticed that his earlobes had turned red. The light red skin had a very nice hue, like a tender sweet peach. He suddenly remembered how it felt to bite these ears in his previous life. He remembered that every time he did this, Chu Wanning would tremble slightly, and even if he was extremely unwilling, in the end, he would be unable to escape from his embrace and turned boneless in his arms. Gulping, Moran's gaze couldn't help but burn deeper. At this time, Chu Wanning was seething with anger. Nobody knew who he was furious with as he gritted his teeth and he asked, what are you looking at? What's there to see? Moran's heart chilled as he suddenly came back to his senses. Just because of his own selfish desires, how could he do this to his Shizun? Shizun was such a proud person, why would he be willing to submit to him? He is such an aloof and chaste person that he probably didn't have any feelings of lust. How could he continuously think of Shizun in that way? Moran shook his head repeatedly, tossing his head like a rattle drum. Chu Wanning said angrily, why are you shaking your head and wagging your tail? Do you find this funny? Moran immediately stopped shaking his head, but glanced at him. This person was obviously embarrassed, but he habitually wore a mask of anger to cover it up. If one looked closely, it was easy to distinguish the emotion coloring his eyes. He probably felt that it was very embarrassing to fall in front of his disciple, especially if it was because of a croaking frog. It was so cute. Moran couldn't help but smile. Unexpectedly, his smile only made Chu Wanning even angrier. His pair of black eyebrows knitted together in fury, almost to point that they reached the bridge of his nose. What are you laughing at? So, I don't know how to do farm work. I don't know how to plow. Is that so funny? Yes, 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 it's not funny. It's not funny at all. Moran coaxed him. His smile immediately vanished as he faced his Shizun with serious countenance. However, his eyes were still obviously tinged bright with humor as they shine with an indescribable brilliance. After enduring for a while, it seemed that this matter was going to end here. But at this time, the frog that had successfully jumped to the ridge puffed up its cheeks and arrogantly croaked twice, as if it was showing off. Moran couldn't hold back anymore. He tilted his head and covered the tip of his nose with his hand, as if he wanted to cover it up with a cough. But he didn't manage to cover it up well as he laughed out loud. Chu Wanning was about to go crazy from anger. He was stumbling about to climb up the ridge when he was stopped by Moran. The two of them were very close to each other. If it were any other time, Moran would have directly pulled him back, but this instance, he didn't. He could still feel the warmth of Chu Wanning in his embrace, and the fragrance of haetang blossoms still clung on his clothes, which seemed to be lingering at the tip of his nose. He felt his heart soften, wanting to melt away. But he didn't dare to let himself be carried away. The person in front of him was too good. He had to hold him up and respect him like a deity. He didn't want his own vulgarity to hurt him in the slightest. Therefore, he could only call out to him, "Shizun." "What? Haven't you laughed enough?" Chu Wanning looked at him from the corner of his eyes. Mo Ran's dimples were very beautiful. There wasn't any ridicule in them, but gentleness. "Do you want to learn how to do farm works? I'll teach you. It's actually not difficult at all. Shizun is so smart, you'll definitely learn it in one go." When Mo Ran taught him how to harvest rice, Chu Wanning couldn't help but think, I clearly came to steal his knowledge. How did I become an apprentice? What a mess. However, Mo Ran taught him very seriously and carefully. He didn't ridicule his clumsy cutting technique with the sickle. His eyebrows were as dark as ink. There was a sharpness in his facial features that wasn't there when he was younger. This kind of appearance could be described as handsome with a bit of arrogance. However, his gaze was tender and patient, as if he was hiding a lot of things that's weighing on him without meaning to, because of the depth of his gentleness. Just like this. You have to do it this way, get it? Mn. Chu Wanning cut according to his instructions, but unfortunately, it seemed he still hadn't got it. He is used to cutting hardwood, so these soft rice stalks made him feel helpless. Mo Ran watched from the side for a while. He stretched out his well-proportioned, muscular arm and helped him adjust the hand holding the sickle. Their skin touched for only a split second. Mo Ran didn't dare to touch him too much, while Chu Wanning also didn't dare to let him touch him too much. It seemed as if one was a torrential stream that had nowhere to go, while the other was a nearly dried-up pond. Clearly, they match each other. If they had only allowed to close their distance, the former would no longer be so turbulent and unable to find an exit, while the later would be filled with water, the chapped soil would be moistened. But just like that, they hide their feelings and avoid each other. He taught him from behind, lower your fingers a little more. Be careful not to cut yourself. The other retorted, I know. Relax a little more. Don't be so stiff. Relax. However, the more Mo Ran urged him to relax, the more Chu Wanning's spine and hands became stiffer. Relax, relax. How could he not want to relax? It was easier said than done. Mo Ran was talking to him too close to him. His breath was even brushing against the back of his ear. His breath was hot and heavy, tinged with this man's unique scent. How could he possibly relax? Without his conscious bidding, his mind recalled once again that shameful dream that he had. In the dream, they were almost in the same position. Mo Ran was also behind him, his lips by his ear. His lips didn't intentionally touch his skin, but they were rubbing against his earlobe. He gasped and said, Relax. Don't hold me so tightly. Chu Wanning's face turned red in an instant. He struggled to break free from this strange memory. But before one wave subsided, another wave came. As soon as he shook off memory of the dream, he then thought of that size ranking of the young heroes of the cultivation world. Chu Wanning felt as if smoke was coming out of his head. Mo Ran was surprised and found it strange. Why are you so tense? Do you go? I'm already relaxed. Chu Wanning suddenly turned around. His eyes were filled with spring water and flames of anger. He glared at him. At such a close distance, it was almost like a sword piercing Mo Ran's heart. Obviously, both of their hearts were beating like drums. But even if they were beating like crazy, the other person couldn't hear it. Unless he was closer, unless his chest was pressed against his back, unless he was holding his hand, biting the tip of his ear, sucking on his earlobe, panting and muttering to him, Relax, don't be nervous. Only then could they understand each other. but since Mo Ran wouldn't take the initiative, then neither would Chu Wanning. Thus, Mo Ran awkwardly retracted his hand. He sheepishly straightened his body and said, "Then Shizun, why don't you try it on your own?" Mo Ran smiled at him again. He then picked up his sickle and started to cut the rice stalks not far from his Shizun. After cutting a couple of bunch, he suddenly thought of something and turned his head. "Shizun. What is it?" Chu Wanning's face darkened. Mo Ran pointed at his shoes and said, "You should take off your boots." "I don't want to." "If you don't take them off, you'll fall again." Mo Ran said very sincerely, "Your boots are slippery. Next time you fall, I might not be able to catch you in time." Chu Wanning thought about it gloomily. In the end, he still walked to the edge of the ridge. He took off his shoes and socks and threw them beside the haystack. Barefooted, he returned to the paddy field and buried his head in the rustling of the rice stalks. By noontime, Chu Wanning finally became familiar with the use of the sickle. His movements also became smoother. He and Mo Ran piled the rice stalks together, piling it high into a small golden mountain. After cutting another bunch off the ground, he gasped out a breath. Chu Wanning was getting a little tired. He stood up and took a deep breath, then wiped off his sweat with the corner of his sleeve. A light breeze blew through the golden waves of rice, bringing with it a cool autumn breeze. He sneezed. Mo Ran immediately turned his head, very concerned. "Is Shizun feeling cold?" "No." Chu Wanning shook his head. "Some grass pollen must have got into my nose." Mo Ran smiled. He was about to say something when he suddenly heard the clear voice of a farmer girl under a mulberry tree in the distance. She covered her mouth and shouted, "Time to eat, time to eat, time to eat lunch." "It's the girl who was singing just now, right?" Chu Wanning said without turning his head. Mo Ran leaned over and put his hand on his eyebrows. He looked into the distance and said, "It really is her. Did Shizun hear it?" With how her voice was trilling just to call out people to eat, it can only be her." As Chu Wanning said this, he moved the last basket of rice to the side of the pile of the harvest. He didn't bother to put on his boots since they were already too dirty. He walked barefooted towards the mulberry tree. Mo Ran smiled and shook his head. He immediately picked up the boots he had left behind and chased after his footsteps. The food for the farmers were cooked in a large pot. 4 or 5 farmer women carried 3 wooden barrels. When they opened the barrels, one was filled with steaming white rice, one was filled with braised meat and cabbage, and the last was filled with tofu and vegetable soup. Most people in the lower cultivation world were not very rich. Meat is actually a luxury for these ordinary folks. However, since cultivators from Shisheng Peak had come, the village chief felt that he could not only offer them vegetables. Thus, the braised meat and cabbage was prepared with plenty of 5-flour cured meat. When the barrels with the meat dish were opened, the burly villagers couldn't help but swallow their saliva at the aroma of the meat. "We hope the esteemed cultivators would not mind that we could only offer these humble fare," said the village chief's wife. She was a woman with large shoulders and a round waist. She was around 50 years old and her voice was very loud. She gave a big smile, which is very refreshing. "This meat and vegetables are purely locally cured. We hope you would enjoy them." Mo Ran hurriedly waved his hand. "Please don't mind us." As he said this, he took 2 bowls and filled one to the rim with rice and gave it to his Shizun. Then he scooped rice to the other bowl for himself. Chu Wanning looked into the barrels and saw that the braised meat and cabbage was filled with a layer of spicy sauce, which gave him a bit of trepidation, as the village chief's wife was especially enthusiastic about it. She gave him a big spoonful of hot, spicy broth and picked up several pieces of fragrant red meat. For someone who could eat spicy food, he would naturally find this dish very delicious. However, for Chu Wanning, eating this bowl would probably cost him his life. However, it was not good to reject the enthusiasm of the villagers. This dilemma stunned Chu Wanning in place when suddenly, a hand reached over and passed another bowl to him. That bowl was filled with tofu and vegetable soup. Although it was a little bland, Chu Wanning liked it. "Shizun, please exchange with me," Moran said. "It's fine. Just eat your food." Chu Wanning did not take it. When the village chief's wife saw this, she was a little stunned. After a while, she reacted by slapping her head and crying out, "Aya, could it be that this cultivator can't eat spicy food?" Seeing her dismay, Chu Wanning said, "It's all right, I can eat a little." As he said this, he picked up a handful of rice that had been poured with the spicy gravy and put it in his mouth. After a few moments of silence, they saw Chu Wanning's face become redder and redder in front of everyone's eyes. His taut cheeks also started to tremble until finally, cough, 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 cough. He had an earth-shattering coughing fit. Whoever said that the only things that could not be endured in this world were love, poverty and sneezing, obviously forgot about chilies. Chu Wanning had unfortunately overestimated his tolerance and underestimated the local chili peppers. In an instant, he was choked until his face and his ears turned red and could not speak at all. The surrounding farmers were stunned. The children were not as sensitive, so the adults had to hit them behind their backs while they giggled. The adults could only pat them on the head. Moran quickly put down his bowl and chopsticks and poured another bowl of bland soup for him. Chu Wanning drank the soup and finally felt better. However, when hot food met spicy food, it would only make the tip of one's tongue more uncomfortable. So, he raised his head towards Moran. With his face already red and his eyes teary, he looked at Moran and said hoarsely, "More. More." Chu Wanning clearly meant that he wanted another bowl of soup. However, Moran couldn't help feeling how his body heat up as he looked onto that red face and those teary eyes. At the moment, he could see in his mind's eye how on his previous life, this man was pinned under him. Under the influence of the aphrodisiacs and desire, he gasped for breath and opened his unfocused eyes. His whole body trembled slightly. His moist lips slightly opened and closed. His voice was hoarse as he moaned, "Please, more." End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 137. Shizun and I get put up as guests. The fingers on Moran's hand were trembling and his heart was beating unbelievably fast. The saddest thing about men was that their lust was not influenced by their rationality. Even if he was unwilling, his lower body still felt unbearably hot and swollen. He cursed himself in a low voice and adjusted his sitting position so that no one could see it. Then, he leaned over to get another bowl of soup for Chu Wanning. When he handed the bowl over to him, his finger brushed against Chu Wanning's. He was shocked and felt a numbing sensation running through his spine like a bolt of lightning. His hand trembled, and some of the soup spilled out. Chu Wanning frowned, but he didn't care much about it. He drank the soup to ease the numbing pain between his lips and tongue. Moran silently looked at his lips. Because of the spiciness, they were bright red, like fresh fruit among the leaves and branches that were full of flowers. When he kissed them, they were soft, warm, and moist. Pack. Moran swung his arm and slapped himself in the face. Everyone was surprised and looked at him in silence. Moran suddenly came back to his senses. He sheepishly cleared his throat and said in a hoarse voice, "There's a mosquito on my face. Ouch." Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out, making a fuss about nothing. "Mosquitoes in autumn are the most poisonous. After drinking enough blood, they'll have to survive the winter. Did the cultivator bring an ointment?" "Ah." Moran was stunned for a moment and looked toward the source of the voice. The one who spoke was a pretty young lady. She had shiny black braids and wore a bright green coat. Her features were charming, bold eyes with fair and tender skin. When she met Moran's gaze, she immediately became more enthusiastic and excited. Moran didn't react for a moment. In his heart, he only thought, it's the village maiden who was singing a tune. He was kind of slow, but the auntie sitting next to the girl was very bright. She was a woman who had given birth to 7 children, so she could see the thoughts of the girl better than anyone else. She readily said, "The young cultivator won't stay in the village for long. He will go back after the busy harvest season, so why would he bring herbal ointment? Ling Er, send a jar to the young cultivator." The girl named Ling Er immediately smiled brightly. "That's great. I'll bring it to you tonight." Before Mo Ran could even respond, the 2 passionate women had already decided for him. Mo Ran couldn't help but be speechless. He turned his head to look at Chu Wanning and saw that Chu Wanning had taken out a handkerchief and was slowly wiping the soup stains on his hands. His expression was somewhat disgusted. Mo Ran was not good at dealing with women, so he turned and whispered to Chu Wanning, "My hands are also stained with soup. Could Shizun lend me the handkerchief when you're done with it?" Chu Wanning then handed him his handkerchief, the same one with the haetang blossoms embroidered on it. Mo Ran remembered that in the peach blossom spring, he used this handkerchief as well. Chu Wanning may look indifferent and cold, but he was actually a very sentimental person. Mo Ran had noticed it in his previous life. The style of this person's clothes and the furnishings in his house didn't change much even after 10 or 20 years. He just didn't expect that even this handkerchief would remain the same. He must have had it for so long now that the embroidery on it had already faded, but this nostalgic person still didn't throw it away. Mo Ran wiped his hands and carefully looked at the handkerchief. He suddenly realized that although the flower embroidery was delicate, the stitches were not very good. He was stunned for a moment when he saw that it was made by a beginner. He thought to himself, Shizun probably embroidered this himself when he was bored. Thinking of his Shizun's serious expression as he stitched the haetang flowers with a small needle, Mo Ran couldn't help but want to smile. When he was about to take a closer look, the handkerchief was taken away by Chu Wanning. Mo Ran said, "Why did Shizun take it away? I'll help you wash it." "I can wash it myself," Chu Wanning said as he picked up the bowl and chopsticks again. How could Mo Ran be willing to watch him court trouble again? So, he hurriedly exchanged his bowl with the one that only had the tofu and vegetable on top of the rice and said, "Please have my bowl, Shizun. I haven't eaten from it yet." The village chief's wife also hurriedly said, "If the cultivation master can't eat spicy food, then please don't eat this dish. It's really fine." Chu Wanning pursed his lips. After a while, he lowered his eyes and said, "I'm sorry." As he said that, he exchanged bowl with Mo Ran. Mo Ran took his bowl and chopsticks. Just as he was about to eat, he remembered that Chu Wanning had already taken a bite of this, and his heart inexplicably throbbed with warmth. He picked up a piece of pork belly and put it into his mouth. The chopsticks faintly bit his teeth and rubbed against his lips. In his previous life, he was licentious and wanton. He had done everything imaginable with Chu Wanning in that life. But in this life, he only licked the chopsticks that he used and pressed his lips against the bowl that he used. But with just that, the lower part of his body got unbearably hard and hot. Even though he sternly warned himself, even though he repeatedly ordered himself not to have any lustful thoughts towards his pure and upright Shizun, his heart didn't feel like it was his own. He could prevent himself from touching him, but it's proving to be impossible to stop having sinful thoughts about him. He had long since lost his hatred towards Chu Wanning. He originally thought that after stripping away his hatred, his feelings towards his Shizun would only be respect and love. Turns out, he terribly thought wrongly. When the black veil of hatred fell, what was revealed was tender affection and burning desire. He was floating in the sea of desire, wanting to climb onto the floating log of rationality. But Chu Wanning's momentary gaze and a few casual words were able to pull him back into the abyss of longing. He felt that he had really gone mad. Chu Wanning wasn't into men, so Mo Ran would rather die than touch or bully him. Thus, the desire within his heart burned into a sea of fire, spreading into a vast ocean. He was in the abyss of suffering, so much so that he even forgot about everything else. Only the pure person in front of him was able to enter his not-so-pure heart. As he sat beside him, the autumn wind rustled amidst the sound of croaking frogs. At this moment, Moran suddenly had a ridiculous thought. If they could just stay like this for the rest of their lives, he would be quite satisfied. In the past, he felt that he lacked everything, so he would crazily snatch and take anything he could. But now he felt pretty content, so he didn't dare to ask for more. The busy harvest season would last for about half a month. During this time, Chu Wanning and Moran would be staying in Yuliang village. Although this small village wasn't rich, it wasn't difficult to clean up 2 empty houses. It was just that the environment was a bit harsh. The village chief's wife clenched her teeth and took out 2 thick mattresses, saying that she wanted to lay them out for Moran and Chu Wanning. However, the 2 of them tactfully refused in unison. Chu Wanning said, "It's still warm, so we could make do with straw mattresses. Please keep these thick ones for yourselves." Moran also smiled and said, "We're cultivators, after all. It's not good to inconvenience you in our behalf. Please keep these beddings for yourselves." The village chief was very apologetic as he tried to explain, "I'm really sorry. In the past, we used to have lot of mattresses. But last year, when there was an evil spirit, the village caught fire and many things were." Chu Wanning said, "It's really all right." After a few more words of consolation, the village chief and his wife finally left, trembling with mortification. Moran helped Chu Wanning tidy up the bed again. He put a thicker layer of straw under the mattress and tried his best to make the bed a bit softer. He looked a bit like a dog that was busy bringing a soft pillow home. Chu Wanning leaned against the table and looked indifferently. He said, "That's about enough. If you put any more down, I'm afraid I won't be sleeping on a bed anymore. I'll be sleeping in a valley." Moran was a bit embarrassed by his words. He scratched his head and said, "Today was a bit rushed. Tomorrow I'll go to the nearby market and buy a mattress for Shizun." "If you and buy a mattress, wouldn't that meant I would have to do all the farm works tomorrow?" Chu Wanning glared at him. "This is enough. It's actually pretty good." As he said this, he walked over and smelled it. "It smells like rice." Moran said, "This won't do. After all, Shizun gets cold easily. You can't. Winter hasn't arrived yet." Chu Wanning frowned. "Why are you dawdling? Stop talking and go back to your room. Today has been tiring. My feet felt numb. I want to sleep." Moran then obediently left. Chu Wanning had just taken off his shoes. He casually scooped some water from the tub and washed his feet. He was preparing to climb onto his bed of rice straws when he heard a knock on the door. Moran had returned and shouted from outside, "Shizun, please let me come in." Chu Wanning flew into a rage. "Didn't I tell you not to say 'let me come in' to me in the future?" Moran let him have his tantrums. He grinned as he used his head to push open the half-closed door. He really didn't have the hands to push the door open. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing his honey-colored, tight, and sexy arms. He carried a bucket full of water. The water was steaming hot. The young man's eyes were especially bright in the mist, as if they were burning. Chu Wanning's heart pounded under his gaze. He actually didn't know what to say. Moran carried the heavy bucket to his bedside and put it down. His face glowed and his dimples showed. He said, "Shizun, you should soak your feet. You've been tired all day. After soaking them, I'll give them a massage. Shizun can sleep afterwards." "No. I know. Shizun is going to say no need. Moran smiled. "But you do need it. You have to. It was your first time to do farm work, your back will hurt. If Shizun doesn't rest well, he won't be able to get up tomorrow. The children in the village will laugh at you again." The water in the wooden bucket was very warm. It was even slightly hot, but it wasn't unbearable. Chu Wanning's bare feet were soaked in the water. His toes were round and delicate. His ankles were very smooth and defined. His skin was very white. Because he hadn't been exposed to the sun for a long time, it could even be called pale. When Mo Ran saw this, he suddenly felt that Chu Wanning's skin was really good. It was fairer and clearer than those delicate and sparkling Sichuan girls. Thinking about it carefully, even the woman he married in his previous life, Song Kaiyutong, didn't feel as good as Chu Wanning's. But, what was he thinking? Thus, while Chu Wanning soaked his feet, Mo Ran sat at the table opposite him and read a book. He brought that book himself. It was a somewhat boring book about healing cultivation. The room was very quiet. It was so quiet that the two of them subconsciously slowed their breathing, both not wanting to let the other hear them. In the room lit by a single candle, only the sound of Chu Wanning's feet moving in the water could be heard occasionally. "I'm done soaking. They don't feel sore anymore. You can go back." However, Mo Ran was very insistent. He would never believe Chu Wanning's no pain or no discomfort declarations again. He had already put down his book and bent down in front of Chu Wanning's bed. He half knelt down and grabbed one of Chu Wanning's feet that was about to pull back. He gave him a look that clearly indicated that he won't be denied. "I'll go back once I finished giving Shizun a foot massage." Chu Wanning wanted to kick him and make him scram back to where he came from. How dare him to talk back to him? However, the hand that was holding him was strong and rough. The calluses between the thumb and forefinger were sticking to his skin. His feet were especially sensitive because of the hot water. He suddenly felt an itch and wanted to laugh, so he used all his strength to hold back his laughter. Just like that, he missed the last chance to regain his dignity and chase Mo Ran away. Mo Ran half knelt and had already placed his feet on his knees. He lowered his eyes and patiently massaged his feet. "Shizun, is it cold in the paddy fields?" he asked as he massaged his feet. "It's fine. There are also a lot of dead branches and rotten leaves. Look over here, there's scratches all over." Chu Wanning looked at the side of his right foot. Sure enough, there was a small wound. "It's just a small wound. I don't feel anything." Mo Ran said, "I brought some ointment for bruises." "Shizun, wait a moment. I'll go get it and apply it on you. Auntie's concoction is very effective. The wound will heal in one night." As he spoke, he left the room. His hut and Chu Wanning's hut were facing each other. There was only a dozen or so steps between them. He quickly returned and brought back a jar of ointment. "It's just a small wound. Isn't this fussing too much? How can this be too much? If the wound festers, it'll be even more troublesome. Come Shizun, give me your foot." Chu Wanning was a little embarrassed. He had lived for so many years. His feet were an extremely private part of him. He was usually well dressed, so of course he wouldn't walk around barefoot. This was a piece of flesh that not many people had seen before. It was even more so a piece of flesh that no one had ever touched. It was precisely because he didn't know what it felt like to have his feet massaged. Thus, he allowed Mo Ran to squeeze them a few times. Who would have thought that it would be such a numb and sore feeling? It was as if there were ants gnawing at the bottom of his heart. Thus, when he was about to give it to him again, he was a little hesitant. Mo Ran looked at the pair of pure white feet half hidden under the hem of his clothes. The hot water had finally added some color to them. Chu Wanning's toes were well proportioned and delicate. His toenails were like a thin layer of ice on the surface of a lake in the depths of winter in the south. They were sparkling and translucent. However, the toes that had just been soaked in the water had a faint crimson color in them. It was as if a budding haetang flower was frozen in a layer of ice. Mo Ran knelt down again. With a gentle and respectful expression, he held the warm haetang flower in the palm of his hand. He felt the hatang flower tremble slightly in his hand. The petals rustled. He suddenly wanted to lower his head and lean over to kiss it. He wanted it to not hesitate and not be afraid. He wanted it to relax and let go of its petals. Shizun. What's wrong? He seemed to hear that Chu Wanning's voice was a little hoarse. It was as if love and lust were pressing down on the flowers. The flowers were almost unable to bear the pressure and its dew was about to drip onto the ground. Moran suddenly raised his head. At this moment, the candle light flicked with a crackling sound. A string of sparks burst out, and the candle light slowly flowed down. He just happened to meet Chu Wanning's gaze then. Under the candle light, their eyes were very bright, filled with fire and lust. You. Chu Wanning lowered his 2 eyelashes and said lightly, "My feet are ticklish. Hurry up." In the blink of an eye, Moran's face turned red. Fortunately, it was not easy to tell since it was completely sunburned. He mumbled an "oh" and applied the ointment on Chu Wanning's foot with a flushed face. He couldn't help how in his ears, he could hear a repeated echo of "Hurry up." The jut on his throat bobbed as he looked at the delicate skin in front of him. He thought of various things from his previous life. It became clearer and clearer. He thought of the messy bed in Wushan Palace. The beddings were bright red, which made Chu Wanning's skin look even fairer. They were panting and growling. The scent of sex was thick in the air with the sticky evidence of their ardor around. He thought of Chu Wanning's muffled moans under him. His cool voice was heated by the waves of passion and lust, turning it into soft water. "Hurry up, faster." Chu Wanning seemed to be moaning next to his ear. He seemed to be able to hear it. Moran suddenly closed his eyes and frowned. He finally realized one thing: it was too difficult for him to be good for Chu Wanning. If they were too far away, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to keep him warm and take good care of him. If he was too close, he couldn't suppress the evil fire in his heart. If he wasn't careful, his rationality would be burned to ashes. He was afraid that he would do something that crossed the line. He wanted to be him. He wanted him too bad. Even at this moment, he suddenly felt that what he wanted to do was not kneel here and apply ointment and massage Chu Wanning's feet. This person was sitting in front of him on the bed. His current strength was not much different from the past. Chu Wanning wouldn't be able to easily escape him should he push. He longed to fuck him, pushed him down onto the bed. He yearned so much that his throat had gone dry and his desire swelled to the point of pain. He wanted to press his body against Chu Wanning and moved rhythmically. Shizun, it's finished. He almost shouted out loud. It gave Chu Wanning a fright. Only Moran knew that his back was drenched in cold sweat. He suddenly felt extremely sad. Why couldn't he be good to his Shizun? Why couldn't he be nice to his Shizun? Why couldn't he get rid of these burning desires? Chu Wanning, Chu Wanning. His Shizun was the most aloof person in the world. If he knew that his disciple harbored such feelings for him, how much would he disdain and contempt him? 2 lifetimes. He didn't want him to look down on him again. Chu Wanning finished putting on his shoes and socks. During this process, Moran kept his head down and didn't say anything. He looked like a well-behaved and docile dog. Only he knew that what was locked in his heart was an unsatisfied wolf. After a while, Moran suppressed the scorching heat in his heart and said, "Shizun, please rest well. If you feel any discomfort tomorrow, then you shouldn't go down the fields. I can work well enough for the 2 of us." Before Chu Wanning could say anything, he heard a delicate voice shout from outside, "Cultivator Mo. Cultivator Mo, are you there?" End chapter.